Independent reserve people. I've got 5 seats reserved here for you. 5 seats. Thank you. VIP treatment. Australia's leading exchange. Lasanka paid me to say that, of course. You'll notice I'm not wearing their shirt tonight. I'm actually wearing a Hut 34 hat. If anyone doesn't know anything about Hut, they can turn around and a good friend of mine, Tim McNamara, who's the, what are you, Tim? You're the product manager, aren't you? Cleaner. If you want to know about it, and if you'd like a hat, ask Tim. Tim gives away hats all the time. So, thank you very much for coming. We just want to clear that kitchen out, please. Please, we'll just clear that kitchen out and we'll have a seat. Okay, time to kick it off. So yes, thank you very much for coming tonight. We've got the great debate. Big turnout to hear whether Bitcoin is dead or alive. So it's going to be good. Tonight we will kick the night off with Phil Shepler, who is going to do an exclusive world launch for his 2nd edition of Blockchain Loyalty, followed by the global CEO of ZebPay, which is one of the largest exchanges in the world, and they tonight are launching their exchange live here right in front of you, their Australian exchange. Then we'll cut to the great debate, and after that, we will have a Q&A panel like we normally do. I'm going to bring some of the speakers back on board, and then we will have a few beers, and afterwards we'll go downstairs. I heard the Independent Reserve guys are going to put their credit card behind the bar again. For cocktails only. No, not beer or wine, no soft drinks, no water. And this week we're going to see if we can get it to nudge over that $2,000 mark. And not be removed. Bill Barden, what do you think? Sounds good. Okay, cool. So let's kick it off. Tom, are you right? All good? We're filming? Settled in? Need a drink? Pizza? No? Good. Okay, big round of applause. I'd like to welcome Phil Shepler to the stage, please. Thank you.
Thanks, DJ. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight for the launch of Blockchain Loyalty 2nd edition. First, I'll just introduce Loyalty and Reward Co. So I'm the CEO of Loyalty and Reward Co. I started my career at Qantas Frequent Flyer. I was there for 4 years up until the end of 2011, and then formed Loyalty and Reward Co. as a loyalty management consulting agency. Here's some of the companies that we've designed loyalty programs for over the past 6 years, and a lot of our active clients as well. I've been involved in blockchain only for a couple of years, so I'm still very much a novice. And myself and the team have gone just very, very deep in a single vertical, which is loyalty. So a couple of years ago, I got introduced to the concept of a loyalty program where members earn a cryptocurrency instead of points or miles, and I was really fascinated by that whole idea of earning a reward that can fluctuate in value. Off the back of that, we've done quite a bit of work in those last 2 years. The first thing that we did was we ran a world-first blockchain loyalty research project at the University of New South Wales. We set up a mini loyalty program on campus towards the end of 2017, and students and staff could go around and earn Ether at 12 participating on-campus retailers, and then we surveyed them at the end to see how they felt it compared against their favourite loyalty program. And we wrote a research paper with the School of Computer Science and Engineering off the back of that. And I managed to get a few international conferences out of it, which was pretty cool. I wrote the 1st edition of Blockchain Loyalty, which I launched in June of last year. It's already massively out of date. So if you have a copy, just chuck it in the bin. It's just I think, testament to how fast this whole market is moving. We also had the opportunity to work on a few blockchain loyalty projects. So we helped launch Easy Token up in Brisbane around this time last year. We also have raised around £500,000 for a project over in the UK called Coin Rewards, and we've got a few active projects that we're working on at the moment also. We've also launched blockchainloyalty.io, which is a global resource centre for everything blockchain loyalty. So if you go and search blockchain loyalty on Google, blockchainloyalty.io will come up as the top ranked website. So myself and the team generally write one blog article every week about everything that's going on. So if you really want to go deep into this, then visit that site. And for the last 6 months or so, I've been working with DJ in representing Loyal as a consultant in the APAC region. And I'm going to talk a bit about how amazing Loyal is and all the great stuff that it's doing a little bit later. So this is the second edition. It's much more comprehensive than the first edition. And it talks across a number of really important areas. Probably the most exciting thing about this book is I didn't just write it all myself. I got the guys from Piper Alderman, led by Michael Bacchina, to actually contribute a full chapter on tax and legal. So obviously tax and legal is very complicated in the world of crypto and blockchain. So being able to get those guys to write a whole chapter around what it means for a blockchain loyalty program was really amazing. I've actually got Tom and Louisa here. Can you guys come up on stage? Where's Tom gone? Oh, there he is. So this is Tom and Louisa from Piper Alderman, in case you guys don't already know them. They were contributed to that chapter as well. It's very informative. It'll tell you everything that you need to know. So thank you very much, guys, for all your support. That was really good. Thanks a lot. Okay. The really interesting thing about crypto is that it's a digital currency. So everyone's getting really excited about this concept of digital currencies. What most people don't realise is actually digital currencies have been around for a very long time in the form of loyalty points and loyalty miles, right? So if you're earning frequent flyer points, you're earning a digital currency. So it's actually nothing new. Now, why that's really positive and a really great thing for the crypto and blockchain industry is that most governments around the world have introduced legislation that protects the ability for a company to run a loyalty program without the need for checks and balances. So as an example, if you're creating a digital currency as a currency and you want to distribute that to customers and trade with it, then you need a financial services license. But if it's a loyalty program, you don't need that. There's actually exemptions within the regulation that allow you to create a digital currency and provide it as a reward to your members without having to have financial service licensing, without having to do AML or CTF checks. You can also have the currency increase and decrease in value and not have to have your members paying capital gains tax on it. So creating a cryptocurrency and distributing as part of a loyalty program is actually a really fantastic way to avoid a whole heap of shit. So you should look at it more closely if you're in this industry. Okay. The first edition of Blockchain Loyalty are specifically focused on companies who are creating a single new crypto token and using that to create a new type of loyalty program. The second edition is much more comprehensive, so it covers that. It also covers companies like Lolly and Bitcoin Rewards up in Brisbane, who are rewarding people with existing cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. There's also a number of companies, about 5 or 6 companies around the world, who've built a blockchain platform that allows an individual company to have their own branded crypto token, which can be earned and redeemed within their own business, but also can be transferred into a different type of crypto token and redeemed at a different merchant. The jury's still out on whether these companies are going to be able to scale, but certainly there's a lot of money pouring into that area. There's a bit about using loyalty in order to support security tokens as well. And then the big part is enterprise blockchain, which is actually where a lot of the really exciting stuff is happening. So, the future of blockchain loyalty. Here's 3 things that I think everyone needs to watch very carefully because it's really about to scale in a massive way. The first one is companies who already have very, very large existing highly engaged customer and member databases are starting to talk about introducing crypto token loyalty programs. So one of the really big ones to watch is Line in Japan. They're a messaging app. They've got 200 million existing users And a few months ago, they announced that they're going to launch a crypto token, which they'll airdrop to their entire member base. So if you think about the total sum of crypto traders in the world, you're probably talking in the hundreds of millions of people who'd be doing active trading. So one company is going to deliver 200 million individuals who will now be cryptocurrency owners. So if you think of the potential of this when it's multiplied across other companies, more people will come to own cryptocurrencies and crypto tokens via loyalty programs than via any other means. So loyalty is a really, really critical way that we're going to be able to mainstream cryptocurrency ownership. So we should all be paying a lot more attention to it. The really big, exciting one, of course, is Facebook and all the rumours about Facebook coin. So primarily what most people are talking about is that this will be a transactional stable coin, which will allow people all around the world to buy and sell within the marketplace. But actually the potential for a crypto loyalty program off the back of this is massive. So if you imagine that a buyer in the marketplace can offer a bonus in Facebook coin to someone who's purchasing their product, if you imagine a Facebook branded credit card where people are earning Facebook coin as a bonus in the same way that you'd earn Qantas frequent flyer points. If you imagine retailers offering Facebook coin for people transacting with them, the potential for this is just ridiculous. So the thing that I'm most excited about is that the world's largest loyalty program, which should be up and running in the next couple of years, is actually going to be a blockchain loyalty program. So if you're not really excited about that, it's time to get excited. Okay, and the last one is Loyal. So Loyal is doing stuff on a scale that most people can't comprehend or even aware of. It's all happening behind the scenes with their enterprise level blockchain. So it's running on Hyperledger Fabric. And I'll just give you an example of one of the things that they're doing with Star Alliance. So Star Alliance is a collection of 27 different airlines that all cooperate in the way that they work. So if you're a Air New Zealand member and you fly on Singapore Airlines, you can earn Air New Zealand miles for that, and then there's all transactions happening in the background. Now, one of the challenges there is a lot of that transactions happening in the background are very manual, they're very clunky, they're based on 1980s processes using legacy systems, and so there's a huge amount of manual administration required, which is quite a big cost to the airline. Plus, a lot of the time the miles and the points go missing, which is a really bad experience for the customer. So Star Alliance have engaged Loyal to come in and use their blockchain layer to connect the loyalty management systems of every single one of the 27 airlines in order to facilitate real-time transactions between each of those airlines. So if you imagine a member is a member of Airline 1, but they fly with Airline 3 and Airline 7, the earning of the points or the miles that they get for that transaction will happen in real time with real-time reconciliation on Loyal's blockchain layer, straight back to that member, so nothing gets missed. All the invoicing perfectly reconciles to what's written to the blockchain, so that there's no misreconciliation or anything, which just removes a whole heap of administration. The additional really super exciting thing is on top of that, Star Alliance are planning on also implementing IBM's new Stellar blockchain, which will do international inter-carrier settlements in real time as well. So when I'm an Air New Zealand member and I fly on Singapore Airlines, I'll immediately get my points. All of that will reconcile in the back end from a points and miles perspective, but also the inter-carrier financial settlement where Singapore Airlines has to pay Air New Zealand to give me those points will happen in real time as well. So this is where blockchain really becomes exciting on a scale that most people can't even comprehend, and it's something that couldn't happen with ordinary systems, and I think it's something that everyone should get incredibly excited about. Okay, now you're probably thinking, where do I buy this book? And fortunately for you, it is available online in print and ebook, and it's available now. The last thing that I wanted to do is, my mum's actually in the audience tonight. Please come up, Pat. All right. So Pat has had 6 kids, and at the moment she's in training at the age of 78 to go and run the Berlin Marathon. When do you fly out? In September she's flying out to run the Berlin Marathon, all 42 Ks. So when I'm at home writing incredibly boring books about dry subjects like blockchain loyalty, I get a lot of inspiration from my mum. Okay. All right, please connect. Thank you so much for your time.
Great presentation. Thanks, Phil. And we've also got, Phil's so kind, we've done some giveaways already for the Lucky Door Prize, which Phil's handed out. But I've got a little stack of books here to hand out for good questions, good behaviour, and a few other things that we'll work out as the night goes on. Okay, so now is
That's okay.
an exceptional presentation, and I'm very excited, very honoured to be having the launch night for ZebPay, Global Exchange. So let me just read a few points here. In fact, I won't. I'm going to cover that later when we get there. What I want to do is I want to bring the global CEO for ZebPay to the stage. Ajit, is he here? Here he is here. Oh, golly, sorry. Everybody put their hands together, please. Thank you.
Even if not, I guess you can hear me, right? Perfect. So I don't have a phenomenal presentation of the kind that you have, and I did not bring a relative along. So I'm not going to be able to touch your hearts in the same way. But I must tell you, without any exaggeration, that this meeting has definitely touched my heart, as do so many other meetings. Like yesterday, it was in Melbourne. I have done this in many European countries. I have done it all over India. I've done it in Singapore. And while the rest of the world does not know it, people like all of us are meeting in these rooms discussing cryptocurrency, blockchain, Bitcoin, and the rest of the world doesn't know what is going to come and hit it when they are ready to accept it, right? That is what this is all about. ZebPay started in India a little over 5 years ago, being one of the first 2 or 3 cryptocurrency exchanges in India. And our contribution was, okay, thanks. Now you'll hear me louder, if this works. Okay, yeah, so our contribution to India has been that well over 80%, according to surveys it's around 82, 83%, well over 80% of the people who first purchased any cryptocurrency, usually Bitcoin, in India, did it on ZebPay. And the reason for that is that ZebPay since day one was app only. It's only recently that we have a web interface too, when we went international. And in India, as some of you may have read, the majority of the population accesses the internet exclusively through the mobile device. As in they cannot afford laptops, desktops, etc. And some of them don't have electricity connections either. So how do they charge their mobile phones? There are service providers who take the mobile phone away at night and return it in the morning. I'm not exaggerating. That's like millions of Indians use their mobile device that way. But because mobile towers are broadcasting their network everywhere, so everybody gets in to the internet in India. The majority, the population gets in through the mobile device. Hence, ZebPay became the first port of call when people had to buy crypto, because it was the only crypto app available for at least 3 of our first 5 years. Having done that, we continued to have market share of somewhere between 2/3 to 3/4 of daily Indian volumes. And for those of you who have some experience with the crypto exchanges around the world, what happens is that first, the government does not know you exist. Then they pretend that you don't exist. Then they suddenly realize that you exist, and they get worried about you. But by that time, usually, and this is what we hoped would happen, usually it's too late, right? So because you're too big already. But we felt compelled that if we really want to fulfill our potential, as well as the truly international nature, cross-border or no-border nature of this technology, we need to be everywhere else in this world. So when we had to decide which one country we would go to, and there are just so many countries, we said let's apply a 3-filter test. So our first filter was that while we want a substantial or sizable domestic population and domestic market, we are not looking like a market which has reached the most developed stage. right? So that brought down the list of the countries of the world to somewhere between 15 and 20. The second criteria that we established was that the regulations in that country should be reasonable. Now, you must know this, that as a business, we never find regulations 100% reasonable anywhere. But that brought down our list down to 3 or 4. And then finally we said, we want a country which in general has great ease of business and is business friendly. And you'll be surprised, there was just one country left. So America got filtered out at stage 1. Yeah, because the size of the American lit pools as opposed to dark pools is about 50+%. As in, if all Americans got together, they could give a 51% attack, right? But it is at a stage where we will go to someday. And every state in the US has its separate regulation. So you go there and now you are operational in New York State. And then, so that is something to be done later, probably through an acquisition as opposed to expansion. So we saw Australia at the same stage of evolution, more or less in terms of penetration, in terms of passion, as is obvious in this room, as some of the other customers we have dealt with in the past. So I'm very happy to announce that ZepPay is now in Australia. We are about to launch. I don't know how one launches a country. Do I release pigeons, light fireworks? I don't know how to do that. So what I'll do instead...
How about crack a beer open?
Yeah, we could do that. Or, depending on how sophisticated, as in Bitcoin sophisticated this audience is, you may find this very impressive or highly unimpressive. What we did was, and if my colleague Ankur is ready, are you ready? So what we're going to do is, for those of you who have heard a term called the Lightning Network, which is a layer 2 technology that enables very rapid payment, small micro payments over the Bitcoin network, but have never seen it work. As in, you know what it is, but you haven't seen it. We're going to just do a live payment where we'll actually pay in a one hop. For those of you who understand technology, we will just make a small payment of a few dollars, which you will see my colleague Ankur doing, and we will make a small purchase. Just to show you that while the underlying technology might be phenomenal, but you don't have to be a techno geek to actually make a payment. And if this doesn't work, it is the fault of the projection system, not of ZepPay. Keep that. Yeah. Okay, so Ankur, just take it over. Do you need a microphone?
I think I should be audible without a microphone.
Yeah, I like to be the louder guy in any case, so please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So the webpage that I've loaded is zeppay.com/lightning.
The reason that's important is that you could go and actually either see a test payment, which is more like an animation, just shows you how it works, or you could make an actual payment using our money. Just so that we want everybody to have done their life's first Lightning payment on ZepPay. So zeppay.com/lightning, take it over.
So if any of you are trying this, you can go to the actual payment tab. We will spend the Bitcoins, the Satoshis on your behalf, and you can play a game of Space Invaders live by spending some real Bitcoins. What I'm going to do for the purpose of this demo is do a transaction on the test net for a simple reason that I ended up entering a wrong pin and logging out of my own account.
So we are very secure. That proves that we are very secure. So what you're effectively seeing is not a transaction. As in, it's not a real blockchain transaction, it's a demonstration.
It's a test net transaction, so it's happening live, but no real money is being spent. So it's
Okay.
live Lightning implementation. So there's this test net Lightning store called Star Blocks, where I'm going to buy a couple of frappuccinos. They accept Lightning payments, so I'll check out. They will issue me an invoice. So if I were using the ZepPay app, where our Lightning integration works, I could just scan this and the payment would be done. But I'm going to copy this invoice for the purpose of this demo, go back to ZepPay, paste the invoice. It shows me a bill for 3,100 Satoshis. I click pay, and before I can switch the tab, the payment is done.
So this is the exact speed at which the transaction happens. So if you guys have used digital wallets of some format or the other and scanned a QR code, when Lightning becomes prevalent and coffee, Star Blocks and the likes are accepting it, this is how payment would be done, right? And you'll be paying with Satoshi. Fantastic. Thanks. So I declare ZepPay inaugurated. I will come here again later after the great debate is over and join the panel. Be very happy to answer questions about ZepPay. It's too shameless to be plugging it away otherwise. But if you have questions about how we do this, what our fees are, safety, protection, security, how are we different, why does the world need one more exchange, or any of these questions, look forward to answering all of those. It's great to be here, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, good. Okay, let's get into the action. So it's the main event, and it's the great crypto debate. Bitcoin is dead. Long live Bitcoin. So you're not going to want to miss this. But according to 99bitcoins.com, Bitcoin's died 348 times since 2010. Even Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan got in on the act. But Bitcoin continues to grow and evolve, with Lightning Network now increasing its users month on month. 36,000 Lightning channels now operating. At the same time, blockchain and cryptocurrencies are decoupling from each other as the underlying blockchain technology continues its march forward, with so many protocols appearing to offer technical superiority to Bitcoin. In the meantime, governments want their tax dollars and want to quash and remove the financing of terrorism. So, will the passion of the Bitcoin fundamentalists drive continued adoption? Will Lightning networks see greater adoption? Or will the governments bully Bitcoin into submission? Let's have a debate. Okay, so on the panel tonight, we have four, not on the panel, on stage for the great debate, we have four people. Two people representing each side of the argument, who will be given 10 minutes to pitch their reasoned opinions. 10 minutes each person. Each team will have the right of reply for 5 minutes. And right of reply for 5 minutes, followed by a 1 minute sum up for each side. You, as the audience, will be able to ask questions at the end, but you will also decide who wins the debate and who will receive the golden trophy for the winners of tonight's great debate.
Better not win Bitcoin.
Yes. Okay, so
Can you just give us some Bitcoin for the winner?
potentially, or a free book.
Nah.
Well, you can have a book as well. Okay, cool. So what's happening? Who are these people? Where are they? Let's talk about them first, and then we'll bring them up. Firstly, Alex McKillop, good old mate of mine. Told me I was crazy when we talked about cryptocurrencies and starting these events and whatnot. But anyway, he's been to a few. He likes them.
Photographing.
He drinks beer and he eats pizza, so that's even better. Okay, so Alex is qualified from the University of Sydney, Bachelor in Electrical Engineering. He's worked in many startups and corporates before moving to the UK, becoming a full-time angel investor, specialising in tech companies. Along with sitting on a number of boards, he complements his portfolio with investments in precious metals and the resource sector. So for those that want to diversify their portfolio, Alex is your man. His partner on the panel for the affirmative that Bitcoin is dead is Dr. James Jansen, who is CEO of X Credits. James is the lead researcher and the CEO of X Credits, a company building a highly scalable cryptocurrency. James has previously worked in the field of micropayments for news content with his startup TapView, which I've heard of several times. Okay, before getting into startups, James did a PhD in mathematical modelling of HIV epidemiology. James is also the deputy leader of and founded the Science Party and is running in the upcoming federal election in the seat of Kingston Smith. So we all know who we're voting for. Okay, and for the affirmative side, we have Alex Svetsky, who is the CEO and founder of Amber. He's in the top 1%. He's a top 1% student and university scholarship recipient who decided to pursue entrepreneurship instead of textbooks. After teaching himself to trade high-leverage derivatives, making a small fortune at school, Alex decided to leave university to chase bigger dreams. He founded the Blockchain Training Institute in late 2016 currently the CEO of Amber, new generation micro investing app. And we'll hear more about that a little later. Okay, his partner is Hass McCook, Bitcoin evangelist. Hass is the former chartered civil engineer, over 10 years experience in design, construction, financing, delivering multi-billion-dollar civil infrastructure and multi-hundred-million-dollar residential and real estate construction. And Hass has been publishing independent research on the Bitcoin mining industry. So if anyone wants to know about mining, great man to ask some questions. Okay, so may the great debate begin. I will just let you know, debaters, participants, 10 minutes first. I will give you a 1 minute. I will give you a 1 minute gun with the bell, followed by a gong, gong, and that means you've got to walk off stage, even if you're talking. Okay, cool. So first up, we have James or Alex McCullough. Round of applause for Alex, please.
I'm ready to go, Dave.
Right, start.
All right, let's have a show of hands. Who here today has engaged in commerce, has bought something, sold something, been paid for their time, paid their mortgage, lived in a rented accommodation and therefore pays rent? Put your hand up if you're in that category today. Right, that's pretty much everyone. Now keep your hands up. Now put your hands down if you used Bitcoin to do that transaction. Sorry. Leave your hands up if you've used Bitcoin to do that transaction.
So if you've ever bought anything in Bitcoin...
No, today.
Not today.
Today you've bought an item, a product, a service, a good today.
What if I bought Bitcoin today?
Just, it's a simple question, buddy. All right, we have one person. What did you buy, my friend? Or two people? Paid electricity bill, all right. Did you pay your electricity bill in Bitcoin to the provider, or did you sell your Bitcoin to an intermediary who then paid dollars to your electricity provider? Sorry? The recipient actually received Bitcoin. No, he didn't. I think what happened is you paid an intermediary who then sold the Bitcoin in the market and then got dollars and then sent dollars to the... So nobody in this room has actually transacted in Bitcoin to purchase a product today. Well, hardly anyone. So in a room, well, out of 200 people for this technology, which is adopted by early adopters, which we all are, or you all are, why is that? Why is it that that's not been adopted more, given that we're all so enthusiastic about Bitcoin? Well, the reason is because it doesn't work as money. It's very simple. It doesn't work as money. It can't work. My colleague will explain in a few minutes why it can't work from a technical perspective, and I'll explain from a historical and a monetary perspective why it can't work. So, if anyone thinks that governments are going to sit around and allow cryptocurrencies to replace the monetary system, they haven't been paying attention to monetary history. If I have control of the monetary system, I care not who makes its laws. Who said that? Rothschild. Rothschild, very good. Give that man a Bitcoin before it loses all its value. So, we've had money before. Money's been around for a long time. We've had different forms of money. We've had cattle, we've had bags of rice, bags of salt, oil, gold. All these things have been money. What is it about these things which has caused it to be money? They all have something in common. They all have intrinsic value. Before they were money, they were commodities that were used by people because of their intrinsic value. If you had cattle and nobody wanted to engage in commerce with you, you could eat your cattle, you could get milk from it. If you had oil that you couldn't engage in commerce with, you could use it and burn it to keep warm. So all these things have had intrinsic value, and that has led to them becoming money. Gold has been the most successful form of money. It's been used for 5,000 years. You all have gold in your pocket, in your smartphone. Gold was jewelry, so it was able to be used before it was money. It had intrinsic value. Now, what is the intrinsic value of Bitcoin? Nothing. It's a collection of ones and zeros inside a computer chip. That's all it is. It doesn't have intrinsic value. Now, people will tell you, oh, but you can use Bitcoin to do transactions and that's intrinsic value. No, it's not. It's different. That's value because someone on the other side of that trade is prepared to take your Bitcoin and has confidence in its value. So that value is subscribed from confidence. That's not intrinsic value. So, what's my next point? Yes, now money has these properties, and there are other properties as well. It's got to be fungible, which means it's all got to be the same. Cattle aren't very good for that reason because they're all different. It's got to be durable, it's got to be portable. There's a bunch of qualities that money has. There are 7, in fact. 5 of them, the Bitcoin people will tell you till the cows come home about those qualities because they're very good with Bitcoin, absolutely. But there are 2 that they don't like to talk about. Those 2 are store of value and limited supply. Now, before I get booed off the stage and everyone says, oh, there's only 21 million Bitcoins and there's limited supply, well, actually, there's Bitcoin Cash and there's Forks and there's Litecoin and there's Mare and there's all these other coins. So the concept of limited supply is erroneous because there isn't limited supply. There are thousands of Bitcoin. We just had one launched here today. There are thousands of Bitcoin, of cryptocurrency, so there isn't limited supply. The other thing that's important is a store of value. Who here can tell me what in Julius Caesar's times it cost to spend a night with a prostitute? DJ, you know? Oh, you have... Okay. Well, look, I don't know the answer to that either, but what I do know is that valued in grams of gold, it was about the same as it is today. And that's remarkable. 3,000 years of monetary history, and the unit of account hasn't changed in its value. That is remarkable. What does it cost? What did it cost 30 years ago to buy a litre of petrol? Anyone? About 30 cents. 30 cents. So in 30 odd years, it's lost about 70% of its value thereabouts. Now that's not too bad. 30 years is a long time. We have a bit of inflation. We lose 3%, 5% a year, depending how you calculate it, as long as you don't live in Zimbabwe. But basically, we have more or less stable monetary value today. And that allows us to engage in commerce. You can have contracts, you can build airports because you know that the rate of return will be this. The economic life cycle of things is known, and therefore the value of those things is understood, and you can enter into contracts in order to engage in the building and the production of those buildings and the supply of those services. Bitcoin goes up and down 10% in a day. How do you enter into commerce with a unit of account which changes in value by that much? It's impossible. It's absolutely unsustainable as a form of money when it changes that much. So the concept of a store of value and of limited supply are 2 fundamental elements that monetary systems need to have that Bitcoin doesn't have. So it's a bit like saying, I have a Ferrari, it's the best Ferrari, it's the best car ever built, it's amazing out there. It doesn't have a steering wheel and it doesn't have a carburetor, but apart from that, it's a fantastic car. That is the same analogy as saying Bitcoin is going to work when the 2 fundamental elements of money that have been necessary in every form of money since the beginning of time are missing. The other thing that's worth pointing out is that people confuse price appreciation and the value of Bitcoin and the fact that it's gone up with its use as a form of money. It hasn't gone up because people are using it as money. It's gone up because people are presupposing and believing the promise that in the future it will be money. But that's an untested theory. And in fact, as we've seen today, hardly anyone's using it as money. And there are reasons why it can't be used as money. So the assumption that in the future it will be used as money and it's going to be worth $1 million of Bitcoin is totally untested. We've all heard the stories about someone who put $100 into Bitcoin at 10 cents and it's gone up to millions of dollars and they've bought houses and they've bought Lambos. Everybody's buying into this dream. It's a bubble. It's gone up because people are excited and greedy and they want to get on board with this train and grab some Bitcoin. Quick, get into Bitcoin, get the next coin, the next ICO. Everybody's jumping into this, but there are no examples that I've seen where, or very few, certainly not enough to demonstrate viability as money, where it is an acceptable form of money that's going to be used in commerce by governments over long periods of time, all of which are essential to use as money. I think that in the future we will look back and we will see in the history textbooks of money a chapter on the South Sea bubble, a chapter on the tulip mania, chapter on .com, and then a chapter on Bitcoin. So I'll leave you with that idea, and Dave's about to come and ring the bell, so I'll get off. But the final thought to take away is that the price appreciation is tied to expectation and confidence, not to utility. And it is utility that is the essential element of money if Bitcoin is going to be successful.
Thought-provoking. Welcome to the stage, Alex.
Alex number 2.
Alex number 2.
Give me a second. I'm gonna pull up some slides because I think I actually enjoyed that. Apart from a few missing gaps in the story, so I'm gonna try fill those out a little bit. I don't know if this is gonna work. Is this gonna work, Dave? If I put it in here? Oh, shit! There's a picture of me. Fuck. I'm gonna show this chart later, because this entire argument just comes back to point in time, really. But before I do that, I'm gonna try to take my jacket off. Just give me a second, Dave. Just hold on. It's all right. I'm stalling, okay? Because I forgot what I'm gonna say. All right, let's do it. We're doing it. So. There is a reason human beings and all of us are sitting here, and there is a reason why we are the apex species on the face of the planet. And that reason comes back to this concept called shared fictions. I don't know, has anyone ever read a book by Yuval Harari called Sapiens? Can I get a show of hands? Yep, okay, a few. Hey, it's getting... I've been talking about that book for years now, and I usually only get 1 or 2 hands, but it's growing. So he put forward this idea that we as human beings are able to do things and have things like chairs and the clothes we wear and the complexity that we have in society today, thanks to our ability to communicate and agree on and believe in abstract concepts. And we've had multiple abstract concepts that we've built complexity in society around, including laws, governments, gods, kings, nations, blah, blah, blah. All of these things are constructs made up in our mind. And they all start with communication. And this is sort of the basis, and this is my really complex chart of the basis of everything we see in society today. We start with communication, and then we build on top of that. Now, communication specifically is broadly split up into 2 areas. You have this real biological layer, which is, something we share with every other species on the face of the planet, allows us to do, normal communication. Then we have the abstract stuff, which is unique to our species. And with that, we've been able to, again, as I said, create all this complexity. Now, not all shared fictions are created equal. The most important shared fiction that we know of, and the one that's allowed more collaborative cooperation than anything else in history, is money. Money kicked it all off. Now, Alex pointed out earlier that it's evolved over time. It started off as, it didn't start off, actually, this is one of the myths I want to dispel. So people think money started off as salt or even barter, but money actually started off as promises. So what we were doing back in the caveman times was, I'll go out and I'll kill the animal, you go pick the berries, you clean the inside of the cave, and we'll promise each other to do things, and we'll be able to start exchanging value in some way, shape, or form. Then we started drawing that value on caves, which were the early form of ledgers that we had in the early days. And then we wanted to move that value across space. So we found objects that would represent value. And yes, we found the first objects that we thought of were, objects that had arguably intrinsic value. So things like cattle, salt, etc., that we could eat. And we realized that wasn't very functional. So then we moved on to things that were abstracted versions, things like shells, etc., that we could all point to that didn't have intrinsic value necessarily, but that we could all collectively agree on could represent something with intrinsic value, so that it would make it easier for us to trade and easier for us to collaborate and cooperate, because that is the basis of society. Without that, we can't function, because we have a biological limit of what's called Dunbar's number, which is about 150 other human beings that we could know intimately. So money continued to evolve though, so that we found better things that we could use as money. And the thing that we sort of converged to the most was gold, because it had some really, really good attributes. Things like it's an inert metal, it's fungible, it's got all of these elements that make it really good. And that's why gold has stood the test of time. I'm a big hodler of gold as well. I think it's a brilliant metal. But then obviously we had the money in the last couple hundred years, or whatever. We've had multiple times when we've had fiat money. Fiat just means by decree. The problem with that concept is money by decree is not an emergent phenomena, meaning it's not robust. And I'll touch on that in a minute. But before we go into that, this is a chart, I think you'll agree with this one, Alex, is money needs to perform 3 functions: store of value, means of exchange, unit of account. Money, a good form of money that provides those functions has these attributes: fungibility, portability, la-di-da. Trying to figure out my thoughts here. What Bitcoin has is those attributes, not encoded specifically in code, but put together via a consensus that involves everybody who's a participant on the network. It is the ultimate shared fiction, because it not only provides all those attributes, but its life cycle is going to start off as a store of value. I'm going to touch on the store of value point because I'm losing my fucking points here, so apologies. But let's go store of value for a second. The definition of store of value is not the price that we measure it in US dollars, for example. So, the price of Bitcoin going up and down. Store of value is a representation of your fraction or your attribution of the total supply of something. And with Bitcoin, that's a verifiably that's a verifiable number. If you hold 1 Bitcoin, you can be sure that there will never you will always hold 1/21 millionth of the entire network at some point in time, depending on how many coins were lost. That number might actually be even better. So going back to the Bitcoin thing, and I'm going to hit a point which I think is really important to understand, because if we think about Bitcoin as this emergent phenomena, so there's a concept called emergent phenomena which ties to complexity theory, and what that means is we can't measure those things. There's no direct cause and effect relationship that we can pick up in emergent phenomena that we can replicate and we can copy and do again. And this is one of the things that a lot of people fail to understand about Bitcoin, is it grew organically. It wasn't something that was sold down people's throats or ICO'd, or none of that sort of stuff happened with Bitcoin and Bitcoin specifically. It was something that grew, and we don't know what element of Bitcoin, whether it was the founder gone missing, whether it was the early holders that came into it and their ideals, whether it was the code and the consensus mechanism that seemed to work, whether it was the fact that we dismissed Bitcoin for the first 5 years and the network grew strong enough, economically speaking, that now it's too difficult to shut down. We don't know what element made Bitcoin or brought Bitcoin to where it is today. But what we do know is that it's this blend and combination of all of those, and that is the piece that we can't replicate again, which is why we'll never have another shitcoin or another blockchain or any other thing sort of replace it. Because if we do have a situation where that does happen and Bitcoin does get replaced, then we've taken out the entire innovation here, which what Bitcoin represents is one thing and one thing only: digital scarcity. If we go back to the argument about money, the money that we found, or the objects that we found to represent money throughout the ages, were things that got better with these attributes, and the most important attribute there is some level of scarcity. And the only thing that we know of that's physical, that we know has a really high stock to flow ratio and a high degree of scarcity, is gold at this point in time. This is the digital version of it. This is the corollary in the digital world, and we've never been able to create that before. And Haas is going to touch on how energy as a how Bitcoin has a metabolism that consumes all this energy to produce something that is verifiably scarce in the digital world. But that is the innovation here. We've never in history been able to apply a cost, a real world cost, to something in the digital realm. And the fact that we can do that, and the fact that we've got this social consensus and this shared fiction built up around Bitcoin as this verifiably scarce digital unit, we have an opportunity to create a money that is that has the same attributes and the benefits of gold, but that's digital. So I'm going to just finish with this thing, because I had all this shit that I wanted to say, but I confused myself before I got up here, because there's too much in here. So it started off as a digital collectible. What's really important to understand about Bitcoin is that it's a life cycle. Any emergent phenomena doesn't just come by decree. This isn't fiat money. This isn't some money that the government's told us that we need to accept. It's something that needs to grow organically. And in order to grow, it needs to go through this entire cycle. It is not something that's going to all of a sudden function as a medium of exchange. The day Bitcoin is a medium of exchange, the network value itself needs to be able to absorb movements in price that mean that those movements are minuscule, so you can actually use it as a functional medium exchange. But that is not going to happen today, because we are way too early in the life cycle for this. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. I'll let Haas do the rest of the work after. Thanks, guys.
But it should come up on the screen, and I need my mic on. Am I on? I can't hear myself. Turn me up. Okay, that's fantastic. So, thank you very much for that, Alex. That was a very great presentation, and I do believe in shared fictions being important for economics, but I'm going to argue that that shared fiction is dead, if not almost dead, in Bitcoin. During your presentation, you said that fiat doesn't have intrinsic value, but earlier in the presentation, you said that the original money was promises. Fiat money is promises. It's a promise that at the end of the financial year, the government is going to take 30% of all that money, because 30% of Australia's GDP goes through the government. And they're going to come with guns. And that means that there's a really strong demand to make sure that you have 30% of that money at the end of the year. There's a really strong demand for fiat. So don't get, mistaken about the value of fiat money. There is real demand for fiat money, and it comes from the government. So tonight's presentation, I'm doing a technical analysis. So I'm going to look at both some graphs in traditional trading technical analysis, but also the way that Bitcoin works and why it won't work anymore. And in the spirit of the good crypto sphere, I'm going to do a little bit of shilling for the science party. It's really important that you think about politics, because the government is taking 30% of your money and doing all sorts of things with it, some good, some bad. So think about who you're going to vote for in the upcoming election. I run this company called X Credits. We're building a highly scalable blockchain because of the reasons that I think that Bitcoin is dead. It cannot scale. Now, it's hard coming into this debate when the prices are up. It's been up by quite a bit. In fact, it passed 6,000 today. Everyone give Bitcoin a clap. It's still down 70% from all-time highs, but that's okay. That's okay. It's very poorly performing asset, unfortunately. But don't worry, we're in it for the technology, aren't we? We like it because it's interesting. Except that search for Bitcoin is down 92%. Are people paying attention to it because it's interesting or because the price is going up? I think it's the latter. Now, when people often talk about Bitcoin, what they say is that there's a limited supply and they're not printing anymore. That isn't quite true. Every single year we create more of them. There's an initial supply which was effectively zero, an infinite increase in the first year, and the inflation has actually been quite high. In fact, just in the last year, it's been about 3.85%. That's a 3.85% growth in the money supply, which is actually quite big. Now, how do you get that growth in the money supply? Well, you get it from... Oh, sorry. My thing is gone. Anyway, you get a growth of... Sorry, let's go back. $106 billion is what Bitcoin is worth. And if you're growing it by 3.8%, that means $4 billion worth of Bitcoin is created each year. That $4 billion is going into electricity. So we're burning coal, and we're putting into these things and these things. The result is 69 million tons of CO2. Now, if we want to increase the value of Bitcoin, the mining capacity will go up by that same amount. Do you want Bitcoin to increase by 100-fold? Who wants that? You just argued for a 30% increase in global carbon emissions. That's all the polar bears dead. Oh, so where's the value going to come from? Where's the restricted supply? Oh, yes, sure. It's going to happen real quick too. So there are alternatives to doing proof of work, and one of those is proof of stake. The problem is that proof of stake really isn't Bitcoin, and I'm pretty sure that the Bitcoin developers have shown their hand and they're saying we're not changing it. It's so hard to get any BIP through the Bitcoin developers' GitHub repo. There's no serious proposals on the board, and does it even work? Is there a single proof of stake cryptocurrency that's actually stable and resistant to manipulation? And I don't think that out of the ones that we have, that they've generally shown that they're secure. The real reason why I think Bitcoin is dead is not just the environmental. It's that it doesn't do what it says on the box. So we've got the Satoshi white paper. Not this Satoshi, the real Satoshi. And if you look very closely at it, it says Bitcoin is a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash that would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to the other without going through a financial institution. And that sounds really great, right? We're all going to control our own money and we don't have to touch the banks. And it's all going to look like this. Our laptops are going to send money to each other. But it's not. It looks like that. And we have a couple of exchanges in here today. In fact, I bet that most of you have never actually sent a peer-to-peer Bitcoin transaction. Most of you have only done exchange transactions. And that's a good thing, because this is what the block size looks like. We are right at the cap of the capacity of Bitcoin, and no one's using it. If no one in this room is doing transfers of Bitcoin, but those who are using exchanges, and no one's doing peer-to-peer, where are all these transactions coming from? And if everyone decided to do these transactions on the blockchain, what's going to happen? The prices are going to go up. There's no plan to raise the block size, and there's no plan to change the structure of Bitcoin, and that's going to kill it. It's dead. It's a dead man walking. We have alternatives. These guys want to increase the block size, but no one likes that. That's more dead than Bitcoin. But that has a bigger block size. So what does that make Bitcoin? To put this in perspective, Visa can do 56,000 transactions per second, but Bitcoin can do three transactions per second. That's tiny. That's hardly any. But what about other ways we can do it? We can use Lightning. We had a presentation on Lightning today. We just launched an exchange. You can do Lightning. I'll tell you how it works. You get two people. They agree that they're going to do basically as many transactions as they want. They go back and forth between each other. You won't print any of the transactions on the blockchain, so you're going back and forth. Blockchain's advancing. Eventually, you put that final transaction on the blockchain. But you've got to get that transaction on there. With 3 transactions per second, and 7.5 billion people in the world, that means that you can do one transaction every 80 years. So you can wait 80 years to go in, and wait 80 years to come out. So after 160 years, you'll have your Bitcoin Lightning transaction done. Fantastic system. More people are born per second than there are transactions per second on the Bitcoin blockchain. So Bitcoin can never actually catch up. And this means that the Lightning channels will be insecure because the fees will be too high to come back to the blockchain and place a argumentative transaction on there. So to explain what that means, if we're going back and forth, we both put in $10 worth of Bitcoin and we say we're going to transact back and forth, and then I've given, on the Lightning network, I've given you $10, and it looks like you've got $20 on the Lightning network, but Bitcoin fees are $40, and I put an earlier transaction in, I managed to get an earlier transaction in, you could pay $40 to get your $20 back, or your $10 back, but it's not going to work.
Yeah, but the other person wouldn't do it either.
Well, would they? What happens if you can, if you're part of a miner and you can insert transactions into the blockchain? On a statistical basis, it doesn't make sense. But if you have people who are willing to go to the casino and lose all of their money on the casino, what would happen if someone starts opening up those Lightning channels and is like, I'm gonna bet that I'm gonna get all this money out of this Lightning channel, and the other person won't take it. If I manage to get this in, it from an economic perspective, it is a very risky thing to have a Lightning network that can't be secured for small transaction sizes. And the other part of Bitcoin Lightning is routing is very hard. So if you've got all these networks all over the Bitcoin network or the Lightning network, you have to find an efficient route. It's not just two people that Lightning is about. It's about joining one to the other. And if the network changes, you have to start from scratch again. And it's a NP hard problem to do. So for the computer scientists in the room, it's very, very hard, and it hasn't been proven at scale. Now, the reason why this is a problem is because Bitcoin fees went up to $50 per transaction at the end of 2017. So you can't do transactions on the Bitcoin network, and you'd have troubles on the Bitcoin Lightning network. Now, yes, to go back over what I was saying, Science Party, vote for us, because crypto OGs care about the government breaking in encryption and security. They're putting backdoors into your devices. They're making so that your cold wallets or your hardware wallets on your phone will be hacked. You won't have any privacy. Labor and Liberal have both passed this legislation. So you got to think of another alternative, like the Greens, the Pirate Party, or the Science Party to vote for. In conclusion, Satoshi imagined a viable decentralized alternative to money, and we didn't get it. And that's why Bitcoin is dead.
Right on time. Well done, Doctor. That's what we like.
How do I get this thing? We'll just this thing going.
Hang on, you on?
It's orange.
What's it? Light off, then it's on. Oh, so turn. So, light on. Lights on muted.
Just give us a
No
second.
lights.
It's actually off. Ooh, there we go. Geez, how depressing, right? So luckily my parents weren't no coiners, so when I was 2 years old, my dad wouldn't shout at me and say, "Your calculus is fucking rubbish. You're never going to become an engineer. You're shit." But thankfully, he was patient with me for 18 years, and I ended up going to Oxford, so I ended up okay. So just a bit of patience, and that usually wins it. So a little bit of negativity, a little bit tense these past couple of talks. Sense a lot of anger. But we're going to talk about life today because the topic is whether or not Bitcoin's dead. So let's talk about life. So life's beautiful. So we'll go back to science class, year 7. Life. So how can you distinguish a dead organism from a live one? So there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can check for a pulse, check for a temperature, all that kind of stuff. But typically speaking, your signs of life are metabolism, growth, reproduction, depending on the organism we're talking about, and response to stimuli. And Bitcoin's been living for a solid 10 years, and we've heard pretty much the exact identical criticisms every day for the past 10 years, and we'll probably hear them every day for the next 3,000 years. But I expect the next evolution of human or robot will be having this debate when we plummet from $70 million per Bitcoin down 80% to 14 million a Bitcoin or whatever it happens to be. So let's talk about the signs of life. So well, let's do. We had a game of hand raising, earlier today. So let's do some hand showing. So who here would classify themselves as sort of semi proficient in Bitcoin? All right. Today was the first time in my life I heard that Bitcoin can only handle 3 transactions a second. So that's quite unfair and disingenuous. But regardless, you saw a live demonstration of the depends on batching and all that. But again, Usain Bolt used to be a shit runner when he was 2, and now he's a pretty good runner. Yeah. So I think. So when transactions were $50 a pop and going at 500,000 transactions a day, we had 500,000 transactions only a few days ago with an 85% reduced fee. So now we've got batching, we've got Lightning, we've got Schnorr and Taproot just got released as a BIP the other day. So you give these things time and they will flourish because a big factor of life, metabolism, all that kind of stuff, is growth. So is Bitcoin growing? Unfortunately, fortunately, I suppose, I got invited to this debate on March the 27th, which was about 80% ago in price, which was about 25% ago in Lightning nodes, 25% ago in Lightning channels, and 15% ago in Lightning network capacity. And that's only been like 6 weeks. If you want to go back further, we can go back further. That's fine. So it's growing. It's doing pretty good. Transaction growth is good. Just general development. Everyone's going to conferences. You guys are all here. I don't know if it's just for the free beer and pizza, but for some reason you guys came out today. It's good to see the mood changing a little. A couple more smiles. The tension's left the room a little bit. But let's talk about some metabolism. And geez. Bitcoin has some metabolism. It is hungry. It does burn through quite a bit of energy, and you're right. The carbon emission is high at the moment, but as with everything in life, efficiency improves. So currently, ASIC mining units, the thing that Bitcoins are mined with, are usually gauged in 3 major metrics: dollars per kilowatt, which is how much it actually costs to buy the machine. Watts per gigahash is how much electricity is used per hashing function, and also square meters per gigahash, because these rigs are getting smaller and smaller. You can pack a lot more. Where's DK? You can pack a lot more hash per brick these days at a lower environmental impact. And there's been a lot of studies, especially one by CoinShares. One by CoinShares that actually shows that 75% of the energy used to mine Bitcoin is coming from renewable sources. So over time, as the world does go renewable, who cares how much energy we use if it's emission-free? We are where we are now. You guys have your iPhones. You guys are wearing clothes. We're in concrete buildings simply because we've learned how to use more energy and produce more energy. So energy in its own right is nothing we should fear. Fear CO2 emissions? Absolutely. So you'll find as time goes by. So I was involved in a project a couple of months ago. It's called the Hoddle Ranch. It's in Texas. So it's a big 175-acre lot that they're bringing on 400 megawatt hours of power, pure renewable wind at 2.4 cents per kilowatt hour. Cheaper than coal, cheaper than anything, no emissions. As this baby grows, as Usain brings down the seconds to his 100-meter sprint time, Bitcoin mining will be what drives energy innovation. And we quoted the Rothschilds a little earlier today. The Rothschilds are a banking family that happens to have an oil arm, and the Rockefellers are an oil family that happens to have a banking arm. So if the energy producers are looking at this thing seriously, you know this thing is quite serious. So that's where we are on the metabolism front. We've also discussed growth as well. How good is reproduction? Reproduction's great. Last time I checked, Bitcoin spawned about 2,000 bastard children. And I think we spawned another one this evening, somebody was mentioning. So it reproduces. Everyone wants a piece of the action. Everyone copies it. So it's, it's ticking along. It's ticking along nice. And responds to stimuli. It does. This thing responds. Responds like nothing else I've seen really. Just in the past 2 weeks, we've seen a couple of good examples. So we had the Tether FUD. I'm not sure how up to date you guys are on current events, but one of the major exchanges, Bitfinex, they seem to have managed to get about $850 million worth of a stable coin called Tether, wrangled up in Panama or something like that, and that's a pretty big, stimulus, and Bitcoin responded to it by gaining, 10% in price. Just the other day, Binance got stimulated out of 7,000 Bitcoins, and Bitcoin stimulated itself up 5%. So I think people are looking at this seriously. The people that fancy Usain Bolt in the long run are putting some money on Usain Bolt, and understand that you can't, judge a kid while it's still in the crib. Gold had, had its run of 3,000. If you want to talk about bad for the environment, you guys should seriously look into gold mining. So all of the gold that's mined in the world every year wouldn't even fill up maybe a quarter of this room. It's a 6 meter by 6 meter by 6 meter cube. It produces a mountain 3 kilometers high, a cone 3 kilometers high with a diameter of 1 kilometer, uses 1 trillion liters of water, which has 10 million tons of cyanide in it, which leaches the gold out of that mountain of waste rock that it produces. So gold is an absolute disaster. It's an absolutely useless metal as well. People that say, oh yeah, it's useful in tech and all that kind of stuff, about 8% of it is used every year by industry. 12% of it exists in tech products. The rest is just basically peacocking. So, jewelry, adornments. I think, central banks have something like 15 or 16% of the gold supply in reserves. You can check me out on Twitter and Medium for the specific details. Done a full report on gold. Terrible for the environment. Drop gold, pick up Bitcoin. So that's basically it. So in terms of signs of life, it's currently metabolizing a lot of energy. It's reproducing like a rabbit. Thank you. I'm almost done, I promise. Reproducing like a rabbit. Yeah, pound that like button, as they say on YouTube. So it's still growing, and it's got several years of growth left in it. So smile, life is good. Bitcoin's not dead, and what is dead may never die.
Okay, wow. We're just going to chuck the music on. You guys can huddle down for, 1 minute or so. Can we chuck that music on nice and loud? We're just going to have a quick 1 minute, 60 seconds or so chance for the teams to pull together their rebuttals.
the fuck up, and I won't let you in. Something's got to change. This is sink or swim, and I know that something's got to change. So meet me in the middle. You're too far in the present, I'm way in the past. I have been feeling myself, I want this to last. Is it the change? Is it
Okay,
the
how are these guys going? We nearly there? See you later, Claire. Yeah.
You're too far in the present, I'm way in the past. I have been feeling myself, I want this to last. Is it the change? Is it the change? Remain the same, we remain the same.
Okay. Okay, let's roll. Let's roll speaker one. I'll just couple of points here. A few of us have put our heads together and come up with a couple of points. Just have a seat for a minute, gentlemen. Just first up, we had Alex sort of, a couple of points arguing that it's not a medium of exchange and it doesn't kill it, and gold isn't. Then we had up. Who do we have next up? The other Alex, of course. Alex was talking that it's fantastic on the creation side, and it hits on the religion, but religions do die out. Dr. James, does the science kill Bitcoin? If that was the case, there would be no religions. And then we followed off with Hass, the amazing Hass. Signs of life. Love the knock on gold. Thinking energy usage is okay? Question. Love clean energy, but using energy is simply not efficient, and that is the flow. That's the flaw with Satoshi. The protege, the Game of Thrones. Anyone who will hold it? And I wouldn't be looking at the price action. Okay, so here we go. Golden rule in debating. What was the topic? Did we hear what the definition of death was? No. Will we hear that in the rebuttal? Will we hear that in the summary? Or will the audience ask that in the panel? Okay, let's go. First up, you two boys, taking the stage together? Let's go. 5 minutes, and here we go. Do you need the mic? Yep, cool.
All right. Well, thanks, DJ. So the negative side did have a few valid points. They said it was a fiction. They said it was a shared fiction, and it sure as hell is a fiction. The idea that Bitcoin is going to be a form of money is an absolute fiction. I mean, the facts are quite simple. Bitcoin is unsustainable as a form of money for multiple reasons. It's got no consistency or store of value. They didn't address that. I think I made quite a good point that the value of currencies historically has been relatively stable, and Bitcoin is wildly volatile. It is completely impossible to run an economy using a system of currency where it changes by 10% in a day. But the opposing side didn't address this point. Another point that Alex made, he drove a lovely graph, and Bitcoin people love to do this. They write these really beautiful graphs. It was a smooth, asymptotic curve.
Nice
for
and
the
logarithmic.
mathematicians. It was extremely perfect. It was a perfect logarithmic curve. I'd love to overlay the actual price of Bitcoin on top of that, because they were totally uncorrelated. I can do that for you. I've got one. It was a log curve. You drove a beautiful log curve, but that's not the evolution. That's not the evolution of Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been flat, or almost zero, and then it goes up, and it goes down. That is completely unsustainable as a form of money. That's all that it comes down to. We can talk till the cows come home about what it could be in theory, but in practice, it's not going to be used as money because it can't function in an economical system in a way that we need it to for it to be money.
Yeah.
One more point.
Ooh.
Technology advances. That was another good point that the other side made. Technology does advance. So who here has the first mobile phone that ever came out, or would like to have the first mobile phone? That big analog thing you have on your head that's a brick and you carry around a car battery and it lasts half an hour? Nobody wants that. Who drives the first Model T? Does anyone here have a car from 100 years ago? Who has a VCR? Does anyone know what a VCR is? You've got school tomorrow. Do you know what a VCR is? These technologies come and they get superimposed, they get passed on. There's always going to be a better mousetrap. Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency. It was amazing for a little while, but there's 1,000 others now, and in the future there'll be more, and it will be consigned to the history books.
Exactly. Yep. And just to go on some of your points there, Hass, you said that Bitcoin mining will drive energy innovation. Just mine more Bitcoin, we'll get more energy innovation. That's like saying you should drive your car longer so that we make our cars more efficient. You're wasting energy unnecessarily in order to drive this innovation. The reality is every single Bitcoin that's mined, the additional price that you add to Bitcoin, it causes an increase in the amount of carbon emissions. Or, at the very least, it limits your ability to abate an already potentially catastrophic situation that we do have with carbon emissions. So you don't get a free pass on that just because some of the Bitcoin miners are using renewable energy because the whole world is not using renewable energy. I'd also like to point out, you said it's growing so fast. Who knows how much money is publicly disclosed as being on the Lightning Network? How many Bitcoins? Does anyone know? Yeah. How many? 1,100. 6 million. 6 million US dollars. 6.6 million. 6.6 million dollars out of 104 billion dollars of Bitcoin is on Lightning. No one is using Lightning. It's been around for 12 months. Where's the adoption? It is not being used. It is not being used for anything. It's not being accepted. It's not being used. So it's not an innovation that's useful. Either people realize that it's bad or it will never take off. The final point that I'd like to say is, yes, it's like life. Bitcoin is exactly like life. And there has been so many offspring. There's been thousands of them. And like all offspring, the parents are outcompeted by the offspring. So those new coins will replace Bitcoin, the OG cryptocurrency. This debate is not about will crypto die. I'm running a cryptocurrency company. This debate is about whether Bitcoin is dead. And from the looks of things, it is actually looking like it's dead. It's stagnant. It's going down in price. It's not adding new features. It's not getting more adoption. The king is dead. Long live the king. Bitcoin will be replaced. Bitcoin is dead.
Yeah, go for it.
Super clear. Yeah.
All right. I'll wait for the gong to dissipate. So, yeah, who here's been storing Bitcoin for a year? All right, that's pretty good. Anyone been storing it for 2 years? 3? Voluntary hands. Anyone been storing for 3? It's been storing like a mother effer, hasn't it, for you guys? So if you happen to be an idiot and bet the farm at 20,000, I'm really sorry for your loss, and I suppose that explains a lot of anger. In terms of CO2, don't blame Bitcoin, blame society and consumerism, really. Unless if you stay on a fiat system which encourages you to borrow to buy shit you don't need, Don't tell me, blame Bitcoin as scarce money supply is making the environment worse, encouraging a savings mentality and effectively, putting the government on the leash from endless wars and, corruption and whatnot. So it's an absolute exercise in intellectual dishonesty to say Bitcoin is the thing that's going to destroy the environment. Please give me a break. So that's probably the only thing I'm going to say in a bit of anger and annoyance. Governments are absolutely useless. No politician will tell you the truth, hint, hint. Whether that's on public policy or whether that's on transactions per second or innovation in a particular technology. So I think the people that know Bitcoin know a bit better from what they've heard today, actually. The facts that they've heard.
I've got too much here, so I'm just going to try and cherry pick a few points. So I think the first one about Bitcoin being a currency, I think that's the wrong argument. That's like sort of arguing that a tank is, you can't race a tank against the Ferrari. That's just stupid. So Bitcoin's core protocol is optimized for a guarantee of security. So the idea is that it's uncompromisable, it's uninflatable, and it's unconfiscatable. So if I was to ask people here, if I was to give you some money and there was an opportunity that money was going to go down in value or could be taken from you against your will, but it's easy to transact, versus if I was going to allow you to store your wealth in something that is uninflatable, unconfiscatable, and uncompromisable, who would rather the first one? Can I see a show of hands? Just a couple little extra transactions. Who would rather no fucker in the world can take your money? Yeah, okay, cool. All right, so that's interesting. I love the government. Please, yeah, okay. Government, save me. So now, the next one is Bitcoin's price in US dollars. And I just wrote this, is a function of how many people believe in a share fiction right now. And this is going to continue to move in cycles. And the reason things like this move in cycles is because it's humans involved. We're complex, we're fucked up, we're always confused. Half the people in this space don't know what's going on, let alone the people outside of this space who are going and buying stuff. So markets and prices are just representative of our collective confusion in coming to a Schelling point of some sort. Intrinsic value is another one that I want to hit. Is there any vegans in the room? Okay, 1, 2. All right, what do you value about cows? Okay, cool. So, but you value them more so for their, maybe they're sentient sort of, they're an animal, right? Yeah, okay. So someone else who might be a meat eater might value a cow for the fact that it's got calories and, they might be on a carnivore diet or whatever. So the concept of intrinsic value is complete rubbish. There's no such thing. Value is a subjective thing, and it's different for every single human being. So the reason we've created money as a society is to allow us to collaborate on a broader scale and allow us to do more complex collaboration. And the best types of money are those that don't have intrinsic value and that we can broadly agree represent value, or things that we subjectively apply value to. So I'll touch on the last bit here. Is this whole argument just comes back to time and patience. We've been indoctrinated in this idea that everything is about fucking now, everything is about spending, the rate of adoption is related to how much, money you're burning, because our money today is worthless and it just keeps going down in value. Whereas the Bitcoin argument is, it's about patience, it's about time, and good things take time to develop. I don't know when the hell the concept of savings became a bad thing, like this idea of hodling is bad. That's bullshit. There is more hodling, there's more savings, there is more adoption in this thing than there is in anything else, because we're here. So yeah, thanks guys.
Woo! And so the great debate ends. The great debate ends. Okay. Who is the winning team? Who is the winning team? Can I have the contestants on stage, please? On my left, we have the negative.
We're very negative people.
On the right, we have the affirmative. Now, I decide the winner. But it's a democratic world. It's a democratic world. So I will ask the audience a round of applause for who thinks the affirmative won. Solid.
But of course, all the people that own Bitcoin have to be
Solid. I do decide, and there is a weighting here. Solid, but I was expecting more. And who thinks the negative one? Well, that's a resounding result, but yes, resounding result, but I think we're going to go to a show of hands here. Show of hands. Show of hands for the negative. Right, okay, yep, a couple up the back there I saw, great, good. Only taking those ones standing, by the way. Yep, 3. And show of hands for the affirmative. Come on, okay, everybody, congratulations, round of applause. Gentlemen, well done. And for your sterling efforts tonight, you will be able to go home and have a little bit of bedtime reading all about loyalty. Check out the chapter in there about Loyal, company that I'm on the board of. Amazing business. Okay, good. Well done. But guys, in the audience, big round of applause for these guys. Thank you very much. Okay, now let's go straight to the thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Let's go straight to the panel. We've got Alex. Yes, please, sir. And Phil, you coming up? Awesome. So I want to do a Q&A. We'll run this Q&A for a little while. Just thought we'd give everybody the chance to ask our esteemed panel a few questions. So get your questions ready. One here already. A few more. Is there a few more questions happening? Good. Okay. Do we need? Sorry. Do I need another microphone for these guys? What do we got? We got. Oh, Alex, you can grab that mic, and then everyone else is mic'd up, so that's good.
Keep thinking you're talking to me every time you say Alex.
Okay. So obviously we've got a few questions. Ryan, are you proposing to Ellie tonight? No. Are you serious? Is that? You? Okay, sorry. Okay, just wanted to check, mate. We discussed this last month. Come on, mate. It's been 4 weeks. Okay. I hope Ellie will come back next month, please. Yeah, good. Excellent. Okay. So we've got a few questions in the audience, but I wanted to ask Ajit, congratulations on launching the exchange in Australia. Big round of applause, please. That's awesome. It's always good. We had one global exchange leave last year, and we've had one come into the market. So Ajit, I heard you talk about this earlier, and you know, we got 246 exchanges registered with Austrac in Australia. Crazy. And some, you know, I think 1,100 globally. Mate, why do we need another one?
Not just do we not need another one, I'm confident that as we saw with e-commerce as well as other emergent technologies, we're going to be left with very few. If there aren't geographic restrictions, it'll be like 5 or 6, and if there are, then it'll probably be a dozen or so. So we are going to see shutdowns, we're going to see acquisitions, first starting out as partnerships. So other crypto exchanges, partnerships, right? Keep that in mind. Right, yeah, so I agree with you. We are just at a very early stage. Fundamentally, the Bitcoin you buy from me or him or her or anybody else is the same Bitcoin. So the delivered product is identical. You can't differentiate that unless you were going shitcoin, right? So I think that the mechanism, the purchase process, and belief, security, brand, these will cause some element of distinction. So 5 or 6 would survive. ZPay has got to be one of them.
Yeah, good. So yeah, why ZPay?
Well, yeah, so I kind of asked for that question, I can see. So while I clearly am an interested party in being biased versus being unbiased, there are a couple of things that we have done over the last 5 years, which causes me to feel confident that we have been at the cutting edge of the technology bit. So for instance, there was a discussion by Hans about batching of transaction. So we were the first centralized exchange in the world which started batching transactions. For those of you who know, there was this thing called Satoshi lottery or some amount of betting system around that. Satoshi dice, that's correct. So that was the time where transaction size, the batch size, transaction size, and fees first came into picture because so many people are betting on Satoshi dice. We have evolved a lot of our technology ahead of the curve compared to most exchanges, and most recently we have come up with a system, not yet completely open to the world, of launching security. Already all the exchanges use these hardware wallets, and they do serverless or internet-less servers, etc. We have gone one step further and I think established a system of security which is new to the world. So ease of customer use, security, customer support, I think should be a secret sauce.
Good, good. Customer support, that's what we like. Now, did everyone receive one of these $25 credits for ZebPay? Okay, well, I'll make it 15. Give me $10. $10 a pop, and I'll make it 15. Okay, no. Pass these around. I want everyone to sign up with this tonight, please. $25 free exchange. So that's great. Okay, questions in the audience in a minute, but I wanted to ask Alex.
Which one? Svetsky.
Bob in the corner.
Yeah, Bob.
Alex was on a panel for me right here last night, and it was an amazing night. Alex was very, very adamant and staunch and just believes in Bitcoin. But, so 2 questions. One, I want to see how this relates to what you're doing in the outside world. Just give us a little snippet of that. But just tell me, what was it? Blockchain's crap, cryptocurrencies are shit.
Yep.
And Bitcoin is God. And
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look. Bitcoin's a black hole. So money is this thing which is unique. It's different to traditional technologies. Traditional technologies don't really benefit too well from time unless you keep innovating, whereas money and things that are really low in that societal stack that I showed you guys really benefit from time. So the more fixed they are, the more you get this Lindy effect happening, which, is everyone familiar with what the Lindy effect is? Yeah, so it gets stronger with time. So money specifically functions best when we don't need to exchange it for different things between each other. So I remember in the US, and you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong here, but there was 12 currencies at one point in the US, and it was really inefficient to have to trade between the lot of them. So what ended up happening was $1 for that jurisdiction. So you have the situation with money where money, jurisdictionally speaking, converges to unity. And this is what's going to happen in the crypto space, because if we look at those life cycles again, today, Bitcoin is purely, I would even argue that it's still in the digital collectible phase. It's still something that we rarely understand. And that understanding is obviously growing, and we're moving along that curve. I don't know exactly where we are on that curve, but it's just the nature of things, particularly emergent phenomena that are just too complex for us to understand. So coming back to why I don't believe in crypto is that I think all of these other spin-offs, much like what you said, are kind of antithetical to the idea of digital scarcity. If we could just copy and paste the same code across every single time, it would effectively mean that digital scarcity didn't exist. But the beauty of the Nakamoto consensus is that you require participants on the network to drive it. So those participants aren't going to go and play on every single network. It's just not functional. And it's actually what we're seeing now in the price. I haven't seen the Bitcoin price move up uncorrelated to every single other crypto in a long time. And I think just people are just, I guess, tired of fucking trading shitcoins all the time and realizing that if I just bought some Bitcoin and just shut the hell up, I would be much further ahead than trying to be smart and trade my way through. So coming back to my argument about what I believe Bitcoin is today, I still think today it's a speculative asset and it represents. It's got attributes that represent money.
That's the best thing you said all day. It's a speculative asset.
Well, it is. Today, that's
It's
what
a
it is.
speculative asset.
Absolutely.
The only reason anyone's buying it is because they want to find another sucker that they're going to sell it to for more money. That's the only reason anyone's buying it.
But we're early.
This
We're
debate will
early.
never end.
It will never end until they run out of people. And then everybody's going to run for the door.
Well, my real question was, I wanted to ask Alex about his day-to-day job. But
Yeah. Okay. So what we've done. So this is my chance to shill what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Amber.
good,
So,
good.
My whole thing is that I just want more people to buy and hold some Bitcoin and shut the fuck up, basically. So stop trading it, stop trying to figure it out and all this sort of stuff. Just buy some, hold it, leave it. And so we've just created a really simple way of doing that, which is, download Amber, link your bank account, and then the spare change from every time you go and transact something gets rounded up and thrown into Bitcoin. Simple. You don't have to think about it.
Nice.
You don't have to worry about it. But it's an accumulation strategy, because the only game in town that matters now is not the next shitcoin, not the next blockchain, not the next noise and mess of fluff that's happening in this space that nobody can really tell you what's actually going on. It's just buy this asset because it's uninflatable, it's unconfiscatable, and it's uncompromisable. It's got the three things you want in a potential store of value asset. That's it. Game, set, match.
Perfect. So, mate, what is it? Amber,
Amber.app.
URL or App Store or?
Yeah, amber.app.
Amber.app.
And you can download it.
Get onto it. Okay. Phil, you were talking about, just give us a quick snapshot back on the Loyal platform using, which crypto again to do the payment? Stellar.
Sure.
Stellar. Let's get back. God, we haven't talked about Stellar for a long time, have we?
Yeah.
What was it? Last month we were talking about... last month it was diversity in the female panel. The month before that it was education and regulation, and all last year it was cryptocurrencies. So let's have a chat about Stellar and what's happening there, please.
I will, but before I do that, I want to applaud Alex, actually, because what he's...
Which Alex? Alex Blue or White?
White, Alex White.
Alex White.
Because what he's done there, he's actually using Bitcoin in order to implement a classic loyalty play. Once again, if you refer back to the loyalty programs that some of you participate in now, such as the frequent flyer programs and the supermarket programs, what they've been successful in doing is creating a desirable currency that's an alternative to cash. And so there's a large percentage of the member base of these programs will change their transaction behaviour and their shopping behaviour in order to accumulate more. There's been a lot of cryptocurrency-powered programs that have launched over the last 3 or 4 years, and they're really struggling to get people to engage because no one's heard of the currency and they've not really made it into a desirable brand. But Bitcoin is, and it's actually a wonderful alternative to loyalty points because there is that burning passion and desire amongst a subset of the population to acquire more. So the thing I love about Alex's play with Amber is that he's tapping into that passion and desire for a digital currency that already exists in other aspects of society. So yeah, I'm going to check that out, definitely. And you need to build out affiliate marketing on top of that, and then you'll do really well, particularly if you have an extension browser. So you've probably already got that on the list.
Yeah, come talk to me about that.
Yeah, so that's really cool.
As long as people get more Bitcoin, no shitcoins. That's
Absolutely. Yeah, that's it. Go for the king. So, with respect to the stuff that Loyal is doing in combination with IBM's Stellar play, once again, it's really exciting, and it's exciting because I think everything was all about crypto. It was all crypto when the bull market was on at the end of 2017 into 2018. And when that all dropped away and people lost 98% of their value plus on the huge pile of shitcoins that they were holding, in many ways it was a cathartic experience for the entire blockchain community, because people started saying, okay, well, if the vast majority of cryptocurrencies are actually worthless, which, let's face it, they are, then what else is left? And what is left, it's like the tide receding, is actually a huge amount of really amazing blockchain innovation that's taking place. But it's not as often as sexy and as obvious and as publicly exposed as what crypto and crypto trading is. But it's now becoming increasingly exposed. And that's what we're seeing a lot, particularly with what Loyal are doing and what IBM are doing with Stellar, with respect to solving real-world problems at very, very significant scale. So the stuff that's happening with Star Alliance, you're talking about massive transactions here. So Star Alliance alone, you're talking about $10 to $15 billion worth of transactions happening every month between the 27 airlines. You've got One World, we've got similar amounts of transactions happening as well. So if you imagine in 5 years' time when all of these loyalty management systems are connected, that's the volume of transactions that will be taking place annually just through those networks alone. You've got IATA, which is on a completely different scale. You're representing hundreds of airlines there, and they're looking at something similar as well. They ran a pilot last year. So, I think in many aspects of society, there's still a big question mark over, is blockchain this thing, or is it just hype? But the great news is that there is companies out there like Loyal and IBM who are actually implementing these solutions that really are solving very important problems and saving these companies very large amounts of money. That demonstrates that, this is really a thing. So I think, once again, people should be really excited by it.
Good. Okay, let's open up the audience and get some Q&A happening. Has anyone got a question? Yep, here we go. One here, one there, one here.
Hi. I'd like to get your opinion about what's going on in India. I understand that the government are pretty anti-crypto and they're cracking down on people that have been transacting.
So that is a oversimplified media's explanation of what's happening, because the government has not made its mind clear. As is true in many developed and partially developed countries, the governments are averse to going so draconian and saying ban, block, finish. So sometimes what they do is they take an indirect route to regulation. So what has happened in India is the central banker, which we call the Reserve Bank of India, has said you guys can do whatever you want, except there cannot be any touch. You cannot touch fiat in any format, whether it's through bank accounts, cards, payment gateways, digital wallets, etc. So effectively, that means you can't do business, right? So we are challenging this in the Supreme Court, and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court himself has taken a lot of interest in this and has said that really it's the government that has to tell us whether you guys are doing something wrong, because if you are, then we can uphold what the Reserve Bank is doing, and if you're not, then how can you be denied banking transactions? Again, you must know that I'm throwing in a little bit of opinion. I'm not speaking on behalf of the court, but India is a signatory to several international forums such as the FATF, which is the Financial Action Task Force, etc., where it has made some commitments, even on regard to cryptocurrency. Looking back at the other innovations that we saw in the past, such as having internet connectivity available to people in the early 90s or e-commerce in the late 90s, etc., usually our government has been very conservative and taken a little longer than many other parts of the world, but eventually they come around to it and the economy, the ecosystem thrives. In the meanwhile, players like us could be dead, right? So we are hoping and working hard on surviving this period of regulatory uncertainty. I'm sure we'll do well after that.
Hi guys, just to be clear, I work for James in X-Rates, and I also run the Sydney University Blockchain Society. I have a question for Alex in white shirt. I was once engaged in one of the top Chinese research institute in blockchain, and the guys told me that they see an increasing correlation between Bitcoin as say correlation of the confidence in blockchain technology rather than the correlation with its say increasing function as a transaction instrument. So what's your say comment on this, and where do you think Bitcoin is heading in the future?
I'm still confused at what the hell blockchain technology is. I have no idea what it is. I said this last night.
He's being honest.
I'm completely at a loss of words. putting some data together and then just hashing it with some other data isn't very interesting to me. What I find interesting with Bitcoin specifically is this, and I put up a recipe yesterday, which was kind of these 9 elements that have come together to make Bitcoin what it is. And one element of that is batching transactions together and then chaining them. But that is only useful if you're going to apply this economic incentive that costs money, which is proof of work. So if you apply all of these things together, you get something that's probabilistically, game theoretically sound, and you can create digital scarcity with it. Outside of that, there's nothing there. So my argument is that you've either got a Bitcoin level, if you want to use the term blockchain, which is really expensive for the purposes of getting digital scarcity, and you use that to secure something and make it super, super, super expensive to reverse, and then you can build layers on top of that if you want transactional speed, etc. Or you have the other side of the equation, the chain. The other side of the equation is a blockchain which doesn't have all of those elements. It's just sort of cherry picking the database structure out or something like that. In which case, you just build a goddamn private database, and if you want to, distribute it amongst a couple parties, happy days. It's maybe closer to this DLT word. But that's not innovative. We've been doing that for 15 years already in tech. I reckon an 18-year-old kid could almost build a database with some external APIs that a couple airlines could check so that they can all pool their points together and transfer them between each other. I don't think that's... Sorry. I forgot you were there. I don't think that's very hard. And I don't think that's blockchain. So what I think is happening in the blockchain space is I think we're using that term beneficially to... for companies like IBM, who are notoriously known to go in and charge double, triple, or 10 times the amount of what it actually costs to build something. But they need a new flavor each couple of years to sell it. So prior to blockchain, it was ML and AI. Then prior to that, it was fuck knows what else. So yeah, exactly. So each time they're coming up with something new. And watch, next year we'll be talking about some other blockchain that's powered by drones and machine learning and whatever the fuck else we decide to put in there together. Sorry about my swearing, but I don't know. So to answer your question, I don't know. I don't think it's got any correlation with blockchain.
Okay. Question here. Question here. Question here.
Yeah, guys, I have a question regarding the safety of the Bitcoin. Alex, probably to you. You mentioned that nobody can take it from you. So 2 scenarios here, just want to understand.
Sure.
The first one, let's say we will see advance of quantum computing, and these private keys, somebody will be able just to generate with ease. And the second scenario, let's say you're sitting at your home and somebody coming in, a knife at your throat, and you're just giving it away because what other options you have? Yeah. And if it wasn't my bank account, that wasn't a problem because nobody would go there. Yeah, government may take it, but nobody else.
Yeah, so this is the risk with a bearer instrument. So that'll be the same as having your car stolen or something like that. So you've always got those risks with bearer instruments. So I'm answering your second question obviously first. So in that scenario, if someone broke into your house and asked you specifically for your private keys. Number one, you probably shouldn't keep your private keys in your drawer. I would, like me personally, I shard the shit and I keep them in different locations around the country so that no one's ever going to touch it or no one can ever find it. Hopefully not including myself. So that's that side of things. So bearer instruments come with inherent risk. So I believe what's going to happen in the future is we're going to have custodians that help manage that, which is effectively what banks originally were created to be, was custodians versus lenders and etc. So that's the first element, and that is not a solvable problem outside of just your personal, how you treat security of things. Like if you had $100 million worth of gold, you wouldn't put it on your front doorstep and you wouldn't tell everybody about it. So it's just managing that, being intelligent about that. The first one, sorry, what was the first question again? So that
first one,
quantum computing. Quantum, okay, yeah, that's an even bigger problem for everything. When quantum computing, if and when it does come, it's always coming next year. that's going to break every single form of encryption we have. So what I think is going to happen with respect to Bitcoin is the only thing there that's really at risk is not the mining. It's more the the private-public key pairs. That is a broad enough risk where there might be an upgrade to the protocol or whatever, or an upgrade to how the private-public key pairs are associated. Encryption and cryptography are just basically a cat and mouse game. So as better things come along to crack, we'll create better things to protect. So I think that's a moot point, and I think if that was a valid point, I think we would have much larger problems way outside of Bitcoin. Like the entire internet infrastructure would fall apart if we were just magically breaking encryption.
Awesome. James?
Yeah, just on that point, if you have an advance in cryptography or computer power or something like that, if you see on the horizon actually quantum computing is going to be a thing, yes, it will affect everything, but everything will advance. Meanwhile, your cold wallet won't unless you move it.
Correct.
So
correct.
that's
So it is a risk.
Unique risk.
Yeah, it is a risk. So, but this is what I like about the Bitcoin guys. So a lot of the stuff that's happening in the Bitcoin community is they're literally advancing the frontier for cryptography. There is no other community on the face of the planet that is open source oriented, that is advancing the math and the cryptography side of things. Like everybody else is fucking around trying to create a new shitcoin, whereas these guys are actually doing the science and the math. So if anyone's going to be ahead of the curve, it's going to be that community.
And Alex, just to prove that this has happened in the past, is that when the Bitcoin protocol came about, it did not have multi-sig capability. That came about, I think, in 2013. So it was clearly recognized that there is this real need. So we all evolved. So I do not see why evolution would end, as in we would and should continue evolving.
Okay, there was another hand here or there. Wait. And after? Or
Hello, yeah, I have a question for Blue Alex because I can see he's a bit sad now. So you were asking everyone who paid anything with Bitcoin today, right? Did you buy anything today?
Yes, I did.
Your lunch or something, yeah?
Yeah.
Did you pay in gold or in cows or in silver?
No, but I paid in dollars, which is effectively a remnant system of something which was backed by gold.
All right, but
we have dollars because they used to be a core.
Okay, just let me ask a question. So, the thing is that you mentioned that actually Bitcoin for you is not money, right? But the thing is, for most people, Bitcoin is actually a store of value. It's not a money. It has never been designed to actually be used as a transactional element, right? So
it just changed. It was absolutely designed to be a.
It's in the first sentence of the white paper.
Yeah. That depends on our definition of cash. That depends on our definition of cash. The definition of cash is having no intermediary giving you permission to transact. So it did that from the beginning. It still does that today. So if I want to transact with someone, cash.
My point is simply that the underlying foundation of the rise in the Bitcoin price is that one day we're all going to be using it, and I don't think that's true. I think it's gone up because people believe that they'll be using it, and that's a view that anyone can have. And if you have that view, you might want to buy it because you think you'll be able to sell it in the future for more. And that's a strategy that people have. I wish I did that.
Which is the same as gold, right? To store value.
No, because
people hold gold because
because gold has uses. Yes, absolutely. Because it used to be 10 cents. I'm not angry. It used to be 5 cents, and now it's 20. Then it got to 20 grand. So yeah, with the benefit of hindsight, I wish I had played that. But my thesis is that in the future, it's going to go to zero because it has no intrinsic value, whereas everything else, well, gold, which is the other obvious example we're talking about, has value because it has a use in its own property. If nobody wants your gold to buy it and engage in commerce with you, you can make jewelry, or you can make a mobile phone with it, or it's used in aerospace. It has uses.
Yeah, but the price of gold would be about $100 if that was the only use.
No.
Not 1,500.
No, because people are using it to store value, because it has the uses. People are using it to store value. And
because it's a collective fiction. Yeah, it's a collective fiction.
For 5,000 years, it stood the test of time. And here we all are after 10 years saying, oh, we can see the future because we've been around so long. We're in the blink of an eye. And this thesis hasn't proven itself
I've
at all.
got a really good question. Who first decided the price of gold?
It's a market-driven force.
Aha. And how long did it take for that market to work out the relative purchasing power of gold?
It's ongoing. It's still been
Correct.
5,000 years.
Thank you. Welcome to Bitcoin, because this is this ongoing process of price discovery.
but
Okay,
which is going to
good,
take another 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
Okay. Righto. A question over here.
Okay, it's more of a statement than a question, but number one, fiat hasn't actually been backed by gold since the 1970s.
Correct.
Number two, the Visa statement. Visa started in 1958. For the first 25 years, Visa was handling transactions on carbon copies. That took less than one transaction a second. Bitcoin's been around for 10 years. I think we should give it a little bit more time before we say it doesn't work. And it's 4.6 transactions a second, not 3.
4.6 transactions per second. Question. Yeah. Get more ink. Get more. Chop more trees down. Burn more fuel. Buy more tyres for the trucks that go in there. Chainsaws. All that sort of stuff. Oil. Yeah, I'm with you, James. I'm with you. And I'm voting for the Science Party. Who else is?
We need a Bitcoin party. That's what we need.
I'm voting online. I might even just call this night early because I've got to go and I'm going to vote. Thank you. So, question?
Hi. I was just observing the debate, and I think I voted for the affirmative because you guys really held to the structure, I felt, more. Because one of the important things about is to define your terms. And maybe I'm just being a bit anal here, but I wonder whether this discussion in total is basically a metaphysical one. And I remembered Theseus's ship and allude that to Bitcoin. If you replace every part of the ship, is it still the same ship? So the same with Bitcoin. If you start to replace the use, if you start to replace the protocols and so forth, does it still stay the same Bitcoin?
Cool. I've got to answer to that. So the interesting thing about Bitcoin is that it's not any one element. It's this collective elements which via this weird social consensus that we've never had before. Through this agreement of all of these people who are involved. Whether at a level of validation with miners, whether it's participants in holding or spending or whatever, depending on where you are in the stack. We all somehow have our own reasons to agree that this thing is Bitcoin. And along the way, elements of that might change. But just like the English language evolved, and we called it English 500 years ago, we don't speak like Shakespeare today. So things evolve and things change. And that's, again, it's another property of an emergent phenomenon, something that grows
things also die.
organically.
The question
Correct,
here
yeah,
is,
exactly.
will this die?
Well, thus far, the evidence shows that this thing has continued to grow and it's continuing to get stronger and stronger and stronger. We've had more transactions.
I don't think it's got stronger. I think more people have bought into the story that they're going to make more money and they're going to get a Lambo if they buy it.
Because the story is the predicate. The story is the predicate. Well, everything is a story. I mean, your pants are a story.
Yeah, but for 5,000
my job's
years,
a story.
gold
Hang
has
on.
seen a story that people have bought
So
into.
it's it's got a
debate
longer
was
story.
over.
It's
It's
got a
gone
longer
years
story.
ago.
So much longer that
Never
this is
forget-
big
correct.
than
What are these guys
I
doing?
agree. I agree.
Hang on,
So that's why I
we
think Bitcoin's gonna be
finalised
bigger
that.
in
We
100
gave the
years.
trophies out. We made the announcements. That debate's over. It's my turn now. I want some time. I just want to hand a couple of books out. Thank you very much. It was a good question. I rated it. And there was one over here. The Angry Man. Here he is. Would you like a book, sir? I think you should. Thank you. Thanks to Phil for that. Okay, question. There was who else did I promise to have a question? Let's get some questions happening, and then we'll wrap up.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for all. It's great. To answer this gentleman's question about getting extorted, you just need a small account. Give them your small account and keep your big account quiet. But I just wanted to make an assertion, and I wonder what you all think of it. To me, Bitcoin's a speculative game. I can make more money than you. No, you can't. I can make more than you. Let's see.
Yeah, that's been my whole point. That's what it is.
Well, that's how markets function, though, right?
Yeah, but that's not how money functions.
No, it is. No, so
right, next question.
So the argument here is
remember,
that
I told
money
you,
is a
this is
market
my
good. If
place,
money
my
is a
night.
market good, it's
James, I'm
far
going to
more
come back to you in
robust.
a minute. But we let's. Okay, right, okay.
So I do have a question, but before I ask it, I just want to go back to the quantum computing thing, there actually is a way inbuilt already to, I guess, make sure that when quantum computers come online, your Bitcoin is safe, and that is to not reuse an address. So your address is a hash of the public key, and hashes, I guess, you know, there is no way that a quantum computer can reverse a hash. So I'm pretty sure you knew that, and I think your question...
You can't reverse a hash. You can't reverse a lattice hash, and there are already quantum-resistant elliptic curve primitives. So what you said about the quantums coming and killing all the hash is wrong, because they all go, it's cat and mouse.
Yeah, yeah.
And Bitcoin cryptography is not driving cryptography. That's driven out of university research, and the crypto blockchain world is using the university research.
I agree with that, but I think there's a lot of stuff happening in the crypto, in the Bitcoin space specifically, that's also driving that.
And on the philosophical note that everybody's coming together and having this party, and that's what Bitcoin is, it's happened multiple times in the history of society.
Absolutely.
Tulip Mania, dot-com bubble, South Sea of China, South Sea.
Everybody agreed that big rocks were of value.
I haven't asked my question yet. So I'll ask my question now because I have a microphone, so it's much easier for me. So my question is for Ajit. So you're launching in Australia, which is, I guess, proven to be a hard nut to crack, as in there's been other exchanges, large exchanges that have tried to launch in Australia, and you know they, I guess, have found this to be a very hard market. What's, I guess, you know, what's your view? How do you feel that you can acquire a market share in Australia, and how have you learned from the mistakes that other exchanges have made that have tried to launch here, and you know, what will you do to acquire new customers and, you know, become, I guess, a large player in the market?
Okay, so I think I have learned more from the mistakes we have made because we have seen them up close. It's very difficult to learn from other people's mistakes because you don't know all the parts. But I think one of the challenges that any exchange which is successful in one territory and then goes and try to replicate its success elsewhere, other than the fact that they sometimes may not adapt enough, the challenge tends to be that because they are a large player here, they assume that in a very short period they could be a large player there, as opposed to starting with one customer at a time and then the second customer and having the patience to wait. Sometimes this is driven by their internal economics. So learning from our past mistakes, I would tell you that we have come here to play the long game, which means had we not had any past success, but as much passion as we do today, the speed at which we would be willing to grow, like, you know, we would at the end of a month say, you know what, we have 100 customers, you know, despite having 3 million customers in the past. I think that is the way we would like to do this. Having said that, it is not specifically Australia that is a hard nut to crack. Every one of the nuts we have seen is very hard to crack. Let me put it that way. Especially because historically, we have done better. Zeppe has done better in attracting the first-time user. I'm not talking a first-time Zeppe user, obviously, but the first-time crypto user, as opposed to telling people, don't trade in that exchange, come to me. And because of the state the market has been for the last 12 months or so, the number of new people coming into the market is a very small trickle, right? So for us, it's doubly difficult because we also tend to focus on the first-time user with our user experience, with our mobile platform, with our communication, and the like, right? Which is why we don't do margins, we don't do derivatives, we don't do a lot of the relatively more complex stuff. It's a very simple exchange. But unless we were to believe that a significant uptick, or at least a thawing of the crypto winter won't happen for years to come, I think we'll do okay because we have come with a lot of patience.
Good. James, question?
Thank you. So there's just one thing that I'd like to address with this hashing issue. If you've got a massive change in cryptography, and yes, SHA-256 is resistant, well, as we know, to quantum cryptography. But if you've got a cold wallet that's like 10 years old and then cryptography advances, the challenge will be getting it onto the blockchain without someone realizing what your public key is, because you have to put the public key into the block. So if you put that out into the network and someone gets their quantum computer and gets in front of you, then you're wrecked. So that's the real risk with cold wallets. You know, you have to update your cold wallets. But just to follow on from that other point that was made, and I think it was a really good one, Bitcoin is like the ship of Theseus. Bitcoin today is not the Bitcoin of 2009. And
That's
I
what's
think
cool, yeah.
Yeah, that's what's really cool, and it comes back to your original point about the shared fictions. The shared fiction is actually around which one you like the most. When you look at some of the features of Bitcoin Cash, it's actually in some ways more like the original Bitcoin than current Bitcoin is. But the shared fiction is with the current version of what we call Bitcoin.
Yeah, 'cause the narrative is what matters, and narrative is a big part of what matters. Yeah.
Which is why it could be that Bitcoin never dies, because whatever is the best thing ends up being the one that gets called Bitcoin. So.
Did you just change your position?
I found it hard to get people for that team.
I think he just.
I must admit,
he's alone now. Let's get him.
I must. No. Hey, he's my mate. He's my mate, and I got plenty of security here. He's all right. He's all right. This guy. We invest in a few things together, but. Just to let you know, I was at a conference and I was sitting next to Tim Lee, who some of you probably know or not know. I think he's probably the first guy to do an ICO in Australia, or one of them. Attempt to do one probably, but he put it together. Anyway, whatever. And he was happy to take the affirmative. He was happy to take the affirmative, and then he couldn't because he's out pitching for his own startup. So then
he heard that me and Haas were going to be on here.
Yeah. Round of applause for the engineer up the back. He wasn't bad. Oh, did we vote on who we thought was the best debater? Did we?
Yeah.
Was it? There you go. Yeah. He wasn't bad. The doctor wasn't bad. The science party. Yeah. Okay. Well, what about the real guy? What about the real guy in the blue suit who's talking real world stuff? Okay. I think we've got time for one more. You're not asking for. Oh, are you asking for a question? You are, or you're telling me we've got to wrap up? No. You want a question? Perfect. Love it when the boss wants a question. Oh, you got it? Yeah. Good.
No. There we go. Okay, so two quick questions. One is, going back to the ideals of Bitcoin, how, and it being a decentralized market, how decentralized is Bitcoin in practice now, given that the vast majority of people have to go through centralized exchanges to actually access the network? And secondly, people mentioned regulation quite a few times in the discussions tonight. But nobody really touches on why regulation from governments is inherently bad, given that governments are accountable, at least to some extent, to voters, to constituents, to corporations paying taxes, whereas Bitcoin operators and corporations and exchanges in the space aren't, and they're only, in theory, accountable to shareholders or customers. Why is regulation on the part of governments and those sorts of structures inherently bad?
I'm going to answer the regulation bit, if that's okay.
Yeah, go.
I don't think regulation is bad. In fact, I think regulation is good. And what I think is really interesting is the very, very small amount of regulation that the Australian government has brought in with respect to cryptocurrencies and cryptocurrency trading. And it's really, having had a conversation with a number of different government bodies and lawyers, it's because they see that all of the existing regulation in place, which is principally designed to protect consumers, actually covers the vast majority of what people are wanting to do with respect to trading. So I think it's important, particularly when you're looking at genuinely shutting down counter-terrorism financing, money laundering, all that sort of stuff. So from my perspective, the governments in many ways have done a really good job prior to the launch of decentralised digital currencies with providing those sorts of regulations, which meant that when Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies were born, there actually was very little for them to do to extend those protections.
I'll answer the first one, because basically what you're saying is that we don't need centralized exchanges. ZebPay is a centralized exchange. Despite that, I agree with you. I think that the reason there is this intermediary in a system which says there shouldn't be intermediaries is just to help people get onto the platform.
On-ramp.
That's it. I think that over time, the faster we do better work, the sooner we will go obsolete ourselves.
Yep.
Right? If we do our job right, then we want to go obsolete as soon as possible. I see a future where decentralized exchanges, maybe not exactly as they are structured today, are probably going to be the future. But for now, given the minuscule, the participation, the on-ramp bit which is taking time, that explains why centralized exchanges are required. And a lot of things, just a lot of points that have come about, right, from security to the part of the debate, including this one, I think fundamentally tries to analyze Bitcoin or cryptocurrency as it is today. Why is it not perfect right now? So if we were happy to see it more as an evolution and see are we headed in the right direction at the right speed, I think we are doing very well.
Yeah.
So
no,
three
I
pieces
would
of
say
evidence.
not yet. I don't think.
No, I'll give you
it's
three
even
pieces of
necessary.
evidence. One is let us take volume snapshots or share snapshots of what decentralized exchanges have done every quarter for the last couple of quarters. They are doing better today. Right? So one, that is evolution of people's participation and belief in a new system. Right? I may be not exactly right with my numbers because I don't check them every day, but I think that every day we transact a few $1 million worth of crypto on decentralized exchanges and a few $1 billion of crypto on centralized exchanges. So today the ratio might be 1:1,000, but it used to be much worse some time back. And my prediction is that while 1:1,000 looks like this huge gap, it will be bridged in no time as more people come on board.
Can I add some color to that?
Yes.
I'll try
very
to be
quickly.
quick. Yeah, okay,
Cheers.
it's cool. So I think the idea of having all of this capital here in this old world and then this new world here, you need to build bridges. Simple as that. And the most effective bridges is these types of organizations that allow for that. So also the other problem you've got is decentralized exchanges. I'm not actually a big fan because the predicate there is the belief that we're always just going to be trading shit between each other, and that's not very efficient for things that function as currencies. But take that aside, you can't use a decentralized exchange to move from fiat to crypto anyway. So that the point is moot. The thing about regulation, though, I think regulation is an interesting thing. The concept or the reason regulation is created as a thing, this is philosophically speaking, is to set some guidelines and rules, and that is an inherently good thing. And when human beings or society have some rules within which they can play or within which they can do things, they can actually do things because they know what the rules of the game are. And that's how all games function. That's how economics functions when we have that. The problem with regulation in the current model of the world that we have is that most regulation is put in place for some seigniorage right, so that someone puts a regulation in place just to screw over somebody else who then needs to go to a rent seeker to figure out how to get around that regulation. So they're not put in to be clear, defined rules that people can play within. And so Bitcoin is actually an interesting representation of a new form of regulation. You can call it governance, which is you've got all of these participants again that are playing this game that are agreeing to some set of rules, which is what basically Bitcoin represents, which you could call Bitcoin's regulations, 21 million Bitcoin, blah, 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 and all the other elements of it. So it's an interesting redefinition of regulation, which is not imposed by somebody who can get some seigniorage out of it. So anyway, I don't know if that answers your question, but it's an
Excellent. On that note, I'm going to ask everyone to put their hands together for a big round of applause for our amazing panel. We've had a great night. We've run way over time, so everyone's probably a little bit tired. But don't forget, independent reserve is going to put the card behind the bar. Okay. Now, before we leave and before you get up from your seats, can we all pick up some bottles on your way? There's recycling there and there's recycling there. I want to clean this place tonight because I've kept the guys late and they don't get paid. They're busy workers. So the guys are from startcon.com. Don't forget, Australia's biggest startup conference.
Our job here is done.
Yes.
And we will see you June the 4th for another amazing event. Cheers.